Hello and welcome to Business Daily on Trust Television. This is a program where we'll keep you up to the minute with developments in the world of business, finance, economy, and also the capital market. I am Christiana Amoduotinya. Thank you for tuning in the program today as we continue to bring you chronicles of what have really transpired in the year 2022. Looking back at the year 2022 in retrospect, today we'll put the spotlight on issues around investment and making the right investment choices. Now, a lot of Nigerians, young Nigerians, both old and young, are still counting their losses and reeling from the consequences of wrong investment choices, investing in Ponzi schemes that pyramid schemes that also come crashing down. A lot of Nigerians are saying we made the wrong investment choices. A lot of very popular Ponzi schemes, also we saw them on social media, did crash this year with a good number of Nigerians losing humongous sum. Now, it is on the back of this that we decided that it is essential to also enlighten and educate the Nigerian public on the right investment choices to make, especially in the stock market and in the capital market, which has proven over the years to be a safe option. So as a lot of Nigerians go into the new year, as you put down those new year resolutions, where do you put your monies? What is the right financial literacy tool you need to take into the new year? I will be joined on the program today by a renowned capital market academic, Professor Uche Uwaleke. He's also a professor of capital markets. So we will be looking at investment opportunities in the stock market out there for Nigerians to also harness and key into the potential in the Nigerian stock market. The Nigerian stock market stayed largely resilient in the year 2022. How can the Nigerian investing public also get dividends from the stock market? That will be the focal point of the program today, and it promises to be really insightful, and I hope you do not want to miss out on the program today. I'll take a short break. When we return, it's time to delve into the conversation. Prof will be taking us on a capital market 101 today for all of us that, of course, went to higher institutions. So sit back and you would get a tip or two on what to do with the right investment knowledge. Please stay with us.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Welcome back and thank you for still staying there with us on the program. This is still Business Daily coming to you from Trust Television. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking at issues around the capital market in Nigeria today, issues around investing in the stock market. And I have with me in the studio now Professor Uche Owaleke, Professor of Capital Market and also a renowned capital market academic in Nigeria. Welcome to the program, Prof.
Thank you very much, Christy.
Always a pleasure to have you join.
Compliments of the season.
Compliments of the season, Prof. Always a pleasure to have you join us on the program. I want you to begin looking at the year in retrospect. Let's have your comments on the Nigeria stock market, the Nigeria exchange. We've seen some level of bullish movement.
That's correct.
A lot of experts say it has stayed bullishly bullish for the Nigeria stock market. So I want you to speak to how the stock market has performed in 2022.
Yes, bullishly bullish since November, such that as we speak, what we call year-to-date return is around 15.45%. What that means is that if you invested, say, 1,000 naira, in January, on January 1st, okay, by now you should be having 15.5%, return. That's about 150 naira approximately on top of what you had invested. So, and if you look at if you compare it with returns from other investments, what we call asset classes, the returns from the equities market, have not fared, poorly, comparatively speaking. As I said, year to date, 15.45%. That we had an impressive performance between January and June of 2022, when the market surged by over 21%. At that time, it was ahead of inflation rate, so the return from the market was, quite positive. But between June and October, we saw the market going down. But again, it's, started, coming up since November. The month of November alone, it gained, more than 8%. And today, we are still witnessing the positive sentiments in that market. So to that extent, you could say that the stock market, doesn't disappoint, especially over a medium to long term. And that's why it's called capital market, by the way. Yes.
Prof, now, why do you think the Nigerian stock market stayed resilient? Because we have a stock market, an equities market watch segment on the program, and we do the monitoring of the equities market, bring the numbers to the fore for our viewers. Now, we've seen the trend in other stock markets, how the position of the central bankers around the world, how surging inflation, how all of that affected sentiments on stock markets around the world. What is the game changer for Nigeria?
Okay, the truth of the matter, just as you are rightly alluding, is that the capital market or the stock market, let us even stay with the equities market, the market is not divorced from the global economy, from the domestic economy. Yes, on the global front, we've seen the negative impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and coming shortly after the negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So that had the effect of particularly the Russian-Ukraine war. We've seen how it has led to a surge in energy costs, rising inflation rates, unprecedented levels in developed economies, particularly the US and Europe. And what has happened? The central banks in these countries have responded by, increasing rates, benchmark policy rates. In the US, for example, that has led to the dollar, strengthening. That has also, led to, capital flow reversals on the part of emerging economies, including Nigeria. So we've seen since the interest rate normalization, started, capital leaving Nigeria, to developed markets. Okay, so the truth of the matter, Christy, is that as we speak, the foreign portfolio component of foreign investors' participation in the market is dwindling. So the bulk of what is happening, the bulk of activity is being driven by domestic investors. And when we say domestic investors, we mean institutional investors, such as pension funds, mutual funds, insurance companies, and the retail investors. So these ones are investing because of the confidence they have in the domestic, economy. The truth of the matter is, yes, GDP growth, as you know, since this year has been on a positive trajectory, even though we know it's on the decline. Yes. Remember, in the first quarter of 2022, we had 3.1% GDP growth. Yes. Second quarter, 3.54, now 2.25. But it's still positive compared to what we had, the negative performance we had in 2020. Sure. So this, and also the fact that, relatively speaking, you could say the macroeconomy has been stable, is what is also buoying investors' confidence, in the market.
Prof, I want you to speak to investment opportunities now,
Yes.
because just as I mentioned in my opening statements, the year 2022, a lot of Nigerians lost monies to Ponzi schemes,
Yes.
particularly.
Yes.
Billions, I'm talking billions of naira. And I want you to speak to investment opportunities inherent in the stock market that Nigerians going about their businesses, because I get people walk up to me and say, this stock market you are doing every day, how can I put money in it and get my money back?
Yes.
And you say it's safe, but how
Yes.
can I put money in and get my money back? Speak to investment opportunities that Nigerians can take advantage of in the stock market.
Thank you very much, Christy. To begin with, you said it during your introductory statement that Ponzi scheme is not recommended at all. And Ponzi scheme is a scheme that, because of its fraudulent nature,
Yes.
is something that you wouldn't want anybody that that is close to, even your enemy, to go
Sure.
into. So it is not recommended, and it is often done by people who are greedy, number one, and who are not patient. Why I'm saying that, I have to emphasize it, the capital market is where a lot of patience is needed, because we say the capital market is the market for medium to long-term funds. So it's not a place you go and put money today and you expect to get huge returns the next day. No, you have to be patient. That's why a longer-term view is what pays off when it comes to investing in the capital market. So what are the opportunities? You begin to look at the products that are available, the kinds of assets one could invest in. The traditional one we know is ordinary shares, equities. And as I speak to you today, a good number of companies quoted in the Nigerian Exchange, which is the platform that the main platform for trading in equities in Nigeria. Yes. Okay, a good number of companies that are there today, in terms of the prices of their stocks, you could say they are quite fair. Some of them are even what we call undervalued. So what that means is that some of these companies are relatively doing well, and if they are doing well, you have prospects of benefiting from those companies. Now, how does an investor benefit from those companies? In two ways. If you buy a company's share today, okay, you stand to gain dividends when the company pays dividends. Some companies pay dividends this year, and you also stand to get what we call capital appreciation. So there are two kinds of ways by which you can benefit from investing in a company's ordinary shares. I've mentioned dividends. I've also mentioned capital appreciation.
Yes.
So even when a company is not paying dividends, but the share price of the company is rising, of course you could sell and get some money if you need liquidity. So ordinary share is one way, one route that investors can take. The other one too is bonds. Yes, bonds are also long-term instruments by which companies or the government raise funds. So if you want to invest in bonds, that is also good. These days we see a lot of bonds being issued by the government. So anytime you hear the federal government issuing bonds, okay, you should be interested in that because that also guarantees you interest payment every 6 months. In the case of savings bond, every 3 months, every quarter. So I want to recommend for those investors out there, especially the ordinary Nigerians who want to come to the market, they can go for savings bond because savings bond is meant for low-income earners. With as little as 5,000 naira, you can invest in savings bond. Some investments too, with as little as 10,000 naira, you can do them. So I've talked about savings bonds.
Yes.
I've talked about ordinary shares. Now, these are the two main traditional products we have in the market. We have other products for more sophisticated investors.
Yes.
Yes, we have the exchange-traded funds.
Yeah.
For example, we have some can also decide to invest in derivatives. Today we have derivatives, in the market. Just the other day, the exchange listed the NGX index, the NGX 30 index, futures index, as well as the NGX pension, futures index to expire, I think, in June 2023. So sophisticated investors can also do that. Now, as an investor, if you want to also participate in the sophisticated area, you don't need to do that directly. Of course, I don't advise anybody, if you want to invest now, I expect you to go through an expert, to go through a broker. Brokers are intermediaries that will help.
Yes, because I was going to ask you,
Yes.
can I take my 1,000 naira and just go to NGX and say, oh, yeah, help me invest this 1,000 naira? Is that how it works?
No. Even when you want to operate in the primary market, the primary market is where, new shares and bonds are sold. So if a company, for example, is issuing shares, like the other day, MTN, did offer for sale, or some other companies, are issuing shares. When you hear that a company is issuing shares, of course, you can go to the bank and, and pay. But even that action should be well advised. You should have somebody advising you. That's why it's always advisable to go through stockbrokers, licensed stockbrokers. Okay, so the licensed stockbroker will now advise you on what to buy, okay, and how to ensure that you get the best out of the capital market. But the one I usually advise, people to do is what we call collective investment schemes. I was saying, if you want to also have the benefits from, say, returns from exchange-traded funds, derivatives, or some sophisticated products that you may not have the knowledge, skill, or time to even do. You go through some, fund managers. You go through collective investment schemes. So a mutual fund simply collects, little sums of money from many investors and then invest. So they are usually managed by professional managers. You have professional managers who do a lot of research and who are able to come up with investment areas that have the potential of giving you returns above inflation rate. For example, positive rate of return. So when you go through collective investment scheme or mutual fund, we have a good number of them. Okay, I always advise any potential investor to be very conversant with the SEC website and the NGX website. Always visit
and they are also accessible.
They're accessible.
Yes.
And they should also try to visit, monitor their investments. Of course, every day in the papers, on the news, you listen to business news and so on to know how, stock prices are moving, okay, or the market is performing. So my advice, Christy, is that they should go through mutual fund, the route. When you go through that route, you drop your 100,000. Because with your 100,000, you can't do direct investment in the market. How many shares can you buy with 100,000 naira? Today, Seplat is over 1,000 naira per share, 1,050 naira per share. Airtel is 1,400 and about 80 naira per share. So if you want to partake in the fortunes of these companies, you can't do that with 100,000 naira.
Yes.
Do you understand? So the best way to do that is to go through these mutual funds. So the mutual fund will now pool these funds and invest some in Airtel, invest in Seplat, invest in Nestle, some of these large cap companies,
yes,
as long as their fundamentals are good. And when the returns come, they are now distributed according to the level of the number of units you're holding or level of investments.
Just before we go,
yes.
I want you to speak on the issues around skepticism around investing in the stock market, or is it a myth that people go around with? Are people really skeptical about putting their monies in the stock market, or there is some kind of knowledge that needs more enlightenment that needs to be done?
Yes, more enlightenment that needs to be done, particularly after the global financial crisis. Since then, we still have, people who have not fully recovered from what
Prof, I want you to land on your thoughts so that we can
Yes,
wrap up.
it's education is important, and that's why I commend, this thing you're doing. And as I said earlier on, patience is very key. Okay, for anybody wanting to invest in the capital market, the person needs to be patient in order to reap the benefits.
Thank you so much, Prof. Professor Uche Uwalike, the Professor of Capital Markets, giving us the right information we need to begin our investing journey in Nigeria's capital market. As he has said, patience indeed is a virtue, and that comes to play here. Thank you for investing your time with us on the program. So as you go into the new year, begin to think of how you can harness the stock market to make more money. Is anybody that tells you to bring your uncle, bring your sister, bring your grandfather, just that's the red flag, run away from it. I am Christiana Amodu Otinya. Don't forget you can catch up all our programs on our social media platforms. Get all the information you need to know. Continue to stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.